In this lesson, I want to get into JS files, and I will actually start with my experience analyzing these files. I think that JS files are underrated treasures because when it comes to security research, more often than not, they hold the keys to a large part of the infrastructure of an online entity. Now, you can think of a web application as being an online entity, for simplicity. I see it as a treasure because if you know how to decipher its content, you will be on a straight path to understanding the functionality behind a certain web application and how certain assets communicate to one another. Therefore, knowing and understanding a coding language, JS or JavaScript in this case, will pretty much help you tremendously. In my experience as a security researcher so far, I've been leveraging the content of JS files from multiple perspectives. First, they give me further assets and endpoints to look into, thereby helping with Recon and increasing the attack surface. Second, as I read JS code, I can understand the functionality behind applications to a good extent. However, I don't code in JS. I'm not a JS developer or a guru, but I actually know my way around JS files. Third, I found a lot of sensitive information in JS files, such as API keys, application configurations, and hard-coded credentials. Therefore, I want to see and approach JS files from this perspective of multitudes, and I want you to do that as well. Now, the first thing that I want to touch upon is that you can approach JS files manually and in an automated fashion. I prefer and I mostly use the manual approach. And I will start with the automated though because I only have a tool that I use for this purpose every now and then. And this tool is actually called Link Finder. What Link Finder does, as the name implies, is to try to find all the links inside your JS files. So here's how I use it. I just do Python 3 link finder, and then I specify the URL with the -u, and then let's take the URL from one of the JS files linked in the Juice shop that I've started. So Juice shop, like I said in a previous video, is a deliberately vulnerable web application maintained by the amazing folks at OWASP. So let's take, for example, let's see how this socket.io is looking. So it's looking pretty ugly. Okay, and I'm going to get back to this ugly look in a moment. So let's copy that, Ctrl+Shift+V, and I'm also specifying -o CLI. So it's not -u, but it's -i for input. And it only found two potentially looking links. If we take another one, let's do this one. Might be a little bit bigger. So Python 3 link finder -i -o CLI. It only found one. Now the explanation for this usage or for its usage is really simple. I specified the URL with -i. So the URL for the JS file and the -o for the output, which in this case is CLI, which is the command line interface. And it will dump all the links it finds or it thinks it finds. Link Finder and other tools that work for the same purpose have limitations over manually inspecting JS files because they have hard-coded rules for finding links. And more often than not, they will miss a lot of potential links from within the JS file. Which actually brings me to my preferred way of dealing with JS files, and that is the manual approach. So first, what you'll need is an extension called JS Beautifier for your browser, and I'll link to it in the resources document of this video. Because when you usually open a JS files, when you open it in the browser, it looks really ugly like this one in this case because I'm in an incognito window. But if I open up another normal window, I have the JS Beautifier already installed, and this is what it's like magic. So this is much more readable code. And as you can see, about 9,500 lines of code. So the extension will actually automatically recognize a JS file when you open it in the browser, and it will allow you to investigate it conveniently. I'm taking Juice Shop as an illustrative example here because I don't want to find vulnerabilities in live targets. So when I usually approach a target, I look at the main website, be it a CMS or a content management system, a dashboard, or even a generic website. So I look at the main website, for example, then I go into the source code, and then I look for linked JS files and open them in new tabs, like I've been doing in this case. I think there should be a larger JS file at the end of the video, at the end of the file. I think this is this one. Let's actually try running this in link finder. So Python 3 link finder -i -ocli. There you go. We have many more potentially looking links in this larger JS file. So as I said, I look into the source code, and then I look for potentially linked JS files and open them in new tabs. The title of this video is really representative because sometimes these JS files can be very, very big, as in more than 200,000 lines of code. So in that case, there would be a lot to look through. My approach for manual inspection is very simple. So I look for interesting strings using the search function. So for example, first I will look for HTTP. As you can see, we have 94 results. There might be some interesting stuff here. Then I also look for HTTPS to actually find other potential hidden or private endpoints or resources for the asset at hand. I also look for .js, .xml, .log, which can lead me to similar results. This is often very fruitful. Then I look for juicy information by searching for API, for example, and then we have 21 results, or API underscore key, we have no results, or API key, or token, or secret, config, conf, CFG, env, or other relevant strings. And I'll post these strings in the resources document that comes along with this lesson. And finally, what I would do is to go through the entire file from the very beginning to the end, reading the code and actually stopping at places within the code that might be of higher interest. Now, this is actually where I try to decipher how the application functions and communicates with other assets. I often pair this step with actually modifying requests in burp or zap to manipulate the functionality towards unintended purposes. For example, if I find a piece of code that deals with promotions for certain products, I try to understand how it works and then test it in burp or zap to see if I can find flaws in it, such as being able to double or triple discount a product. And this is one of the more relevant examples that I have for you. What I want you to understand and take away from this lesson is that you have to approach the analyzing or the analysis of JS files from a multitude of perspectives. 1. Increasing your attack space. 2. Discovering sensitive data. And 3. Reading the code to understand and manipulate the app for potential flaws.